Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jeremy Siskind. These are my books: Playing Solo Jazz Piano, Tocando Solo Jazz Piano, the Spanish translation that's brand new, and Jazz Piano Fundamentals. We're going to be looking through a little section on Jazz Piano Fundamentals today about comping in Bossa Nova and Samba styles. Let's just hear a little bit of comping. I'll play the chord changes to The Girl from Ipanema, one of the most famous Bossa Nova pieces by Antonio Carlos Jobim. Etc. So, a few things to get started. First of all, my caveat is I'm not a Brazilian musicologist. I am not Brazilian. There are amazing authorities on this music, but I know enough to get by professionally. And so hopefully this is still useful, even though I'm not like the guy to go to. I'm just a dude who's listened to a lot of João Gilberto and tried to copy him. So first thing is that as pianists, we want to imitate guitarists when we're comping in this style. This is a guitar-based style. And that means a couple of things. First of all, if there's a guitarist in your band, you want to let them comp most of the time, because that's just going to be more stylistically authentic. And that's kind of the sound that you're going for. The second thing is, in terms of the sound that you get at the piano, you want it to be a pillowy sound. And I usually tell my students that you're kind of doing that grabbing of a tissue out of a tissue box and drifting upwards as you play. Or, it's kind of fun in Brazilian music to think about batting a beach ball into the air. It's an upwards feeling rather than a downwards feeling. So if, in Cuban music, we're imitating a percussion instrument and we like. In Brazilian music, we want to think about that ringing of the guitar. Whereas I encourage my students to play really nice and short for most of their comps in a swing context, in Bossa Nova, you can think about making more substantial comps, like a guitarist would kind of strum the strings and then it would ring out. So they're not really short. Second thing that's going to be really different is that in swing music, we want to be kind of in that rhythm section, playing percussively, and I always think about a boxer jabbing, doing these kind of really unexpected comps, not playing the same thing measure after measure. Bossa Nova comping, we can play the same thing measure after measure. And in fact, it's kind of more part of this groove-based style that we might play. This repetitive rhythm, or make a small variation of it. Of course, you don't have to. You can make some variations. You can respond to soloists. And I do try to change my comping pattern between, for example, the A sections and the bridge of a tune. But in general, once I get a comping pattern going, I more or less stick pretty close to that comping pattern. And then lastly, in terms of this introduction, we have Bossa Nova and Samba. Now, I think there are people who know a lot more than me who are really sophisticated, but in general, Bossa Nova is going to be your slow or medium tempo groove, and Samba is going to be your faster groove. And you can more or less play the same way for both of those grooves. Samba tends to be a little bit more, because it's for this fast dance, it tends to be a little bit more percussive. So I tend to play some things a little bit shorter. But for the most part, these comping rhythms and styles that I'm about to show you for, I'm going to say probably Bossa Nova, work for Samba as well. So let's dive in terms of Bossa Nova and Samba comping. So, and by the way, this is from my amazing book, Jazz Piano Fundamentals. You can see it. I really just got my branding on point. I hope you guys appreciate it. You guys are probably like, yeah, the branding's good, but your sound is absolute crap. One thing at a time. Okay, so. My technology is sucking again, but that's okay. So, I refer to this as a simple Bossa Nova rhythm, and it's simple in part because it's just one measure, and we're going to be looking at some other comping rhythms that are more than one measure. And This, to me, if you've never played Bossa Nova or Samba before, this is the perfect place to start. So it's... And by the way, sometimes I have students that aren't clear. I'm playing the bass in my left hand. So you would really be just playing what I'm playing in my right hand there. Notice that, if we were playing swing, I'd probably put a real big accent onto this end of 3. Yeah. But I'm not doing that. I'm trying to stay a little bit more calm, like a guitarist. We want to be pretty unobtrusive. My teacher, Harold Danko at Eastman, told me a story that I always think about when I'm playing Bossa Nova music. He was in Brazil and was watching the dancers, and he said that the dancers, had kind of very slow movement. The feet were moving very slowly, and I apologize, I'm absolutely not a dancer, but as he watched more up and up the body, there's more and more going on. And that's kind of the way that Bossa Nova rhythm works. We have this very, very basic bass, and then you want that comping rhythm to start forming the syncopation. And then the melody is very syncopated over that comping rhythm. Okay. Now, the next comping rhythm that I show you, I just think of as all offbeats. And this stems from what, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, so I apologize, but it's the choro style, which I've talked about a little bit on this channel, and I talk about in playing solo jazz piano. But this is this kind of almost Brazilian ragtime rhythm. And you'd hear pieces like, well, I'll play a Fred Hirsch piece. Here is on 1 and 3, but the chords are on all of the offbeats, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And it's important to keep that in mind, because I think what can be really nice is to put a little bit more weight, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but hopefully you guys don't mind, putting a little bit more of the weight on the chords that anticipate the strong beats, by which I mean the and of 4 and the and of 2. When I say that they anticipate the strong beats, I mean that the strong beats of the measure are beats 1 and 3. And so these are coming an eighth note before. So even though I've written these all to look even, I might play them with a little bit more weight. And with a down, up motion. Down, up, bam, da, ba, ba. Of course, you don't have to. You could play. But I've actually seen drummers kind of appreciate that little extra weight. That can be kind of another level. Okay. So this is all the offbeats, and I've written here, and you can't quite see it because of the way I've got it framed, but I'm a big believer that we should be anticipating each chord by an eighth note, just like we do when we play swing rhythm. So when we play on the end of 4, we will play the chord that's about to happen. And you can see that I wrote the pattern as starting on the end of 4 instead of starting on the end of 1. We always want to think anticipation. So I'm playing C major, D minor. Notice the chord comes before the bass. I don't think that's true 100% of the time. I think you have some wiggle room, but I definitely prefer it that way. Rather than if you're always reacting. It's just a different feel. So I'm a big believer in anticipating those chords an eighth note before they happen. Now, this pattern is an interesting place to start and then to make some variations. And the way that I would do that is that I would add in some chords on some of the downbeats. So instead of just you might get I think of it as like a shaker rhythm. And again, I'm not really the authority here. And you're kind of defining it. But again, you have to notice my touch. It's not 3 downs. It's down, 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 up, down, press up, down, press up. Right? There's no space in between those chords. It feels so different if I make 3 down motions. Right? It sounds really sloppy. It sounds too percussive, in my opinion, for the style. So starting with this rhythm, you can make all of these interesting variations, and you can keep the comping pattern varied while keeping in the same rhythmic mode. Okay, then we have the Partito Alto pattern. And there's a few versions of the Partito Alto pattern, but this is the one that I was taught. So it's... It's different than virtually all the comping patterns that I generally teach because it's 2 measures, right? And that means that you have to change the chord, like I've demonstrated here, often in the middle of the measure. And again, I would suggest anticipating the chord. If it, for instance, if it comes on beat 1, anticipating it onto the end of 4 and changing on the end of... When I studied at Columbia, I played in a Brazilian ensemble, and the teacher, who I think was Brazilian, had me play this in the right hand and then all of the other beats in the left hand. You could also do it the other way. Become your own one-man percussion section if you do that, right? Let me just explain what I did one more time because I realize it might be confusing. I played the Partito Alto rhythm just as written in the right hand, and then I filled in every 8th note that was not played in the left hand in the right hand. So I'll do it nice and slowly. I messed it up. Too slow. So it's That's a really nice way to get these comping rhythms and this Partito Alto rhythm in particular really nice and deep in your psyche. I do sometimes get the question about what to do with this, if the chords are changing more frequently, like if they're changing twice per measure. And so I wrote this in the book, and this is one thing that you could do. Sorry. I think it works well. But that might also be a time where you would really want to change up your comping rhythm. Okay, now, this might sound completely stupid, and it might be completely stupid if I'm honest, but the Partito Alto rhythm, to me, also teaches us something about potential Brazilian rhythms. Because what you'll notice about this rhythm is that the beginning and the end of this two-measure phrase has downbeats, and everything in the middle is on an offbeat, right? So we have beat 1 and 2 here, and then beats 3 and 4 here. That's a very sloppy 4, I apologize. And then here it's the end of 3, the end of 4, the end of 1. And we could use that principle then to come up with our own similar comping rhythms, right? Maybe it's not exactly the Partito Alto, but it's... Okay, so I'm still starting with the same way, but I'm going on longer with the offbeats, right? It's down, down, up, 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 down, 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 up, down. Or maybe I just do one downbeat at the beginning. Right, so I think playing with that formula of 2-bar phrase, downbeats at the beginning and the end, offbeats in the middle, that can get really interesting. And I think that actually really works well for this kind of arc of a Brazilian phrase, to have the stable parts at the beginning and end of that 2-bar phrase. I want to introduce one last concept, which isn't in the book, but you should of course buy the book anyway, which is just so universally done by Brazilian musicians. Well, I shouldn't say by Brazilian musicians, by fake Brazilian musicians like the people I play with, which is at the end of a phrase, it's very common to do what I call the beat 2 stop. And I imagine this as kind of putting on the brakes at the end of a phrase. So this would be like the 8th bar of a phrase. If I'm playing Girl from Ipanema, listen for it, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right, so I go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a nice way to demonstrate that that phrase is over and that you're going to begin something new. I'll give you another demonstration. Let's see if I play Ginji. Another beautiful. Hear that same beat 2 stop at the end of the phrase. That's really a part of the style, and drummers and bass players at a professional level will love you if you do that with them. And usually you can kind of hear the drummer setting it up. Usually they'll do some sort of a fill into beat 1, which will then kind of stop on beat 1 and set up beat 2. All right, so that's my kind of crash course in Brazilian comping. Again, the books that you should buy. If you liked that demonstration, that was from Jazz Piano Fundamentals. Oh, let's get this bigger. You want to see that cover. And then I have my classic, Cook Classic, playing jazz piano, and then my Spanish translation to Kondo, solo jazz piano. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your likes, subscribes, comments. Talk to you soon.